A simple 5-second habit to rewire your harshly self-critical brain. I acknowledge my own worth. My confidence is growing. Unknown. Sometimes I feel like a spider whose web is repeatedly torn down. I plan something and start taking action. Then life happens, and setbacks threaten to sap my energy and enthusiasm. Whenever I take on too much, I can feel as if I'm juggling a million balls and doing it badly. You've probably seen t-shirts saying, "Things are a bit crazy around here." That could easily describe me when I allow myself to become overloaded. It's easy to feel stressed and to slip into harsh self-criticism, especially when I hold myself to unrealistic perfectionism or get swept away by impatience, or when I start comparing myself to others who seem to be in a better space. But all's not lost. I love to keep learning. That keeps me hopeful about finding solutions, no matter what the problem. I keep identifying and adopting simple science-based actions that yield big payoffs for well-being. The simpler the practice, the more easily it fits into my busy life. So, what can be done when life gets too stressful and setbacks lead to harsh self-criticism? The tug-of-war in your brain. Until relatively recently, scientists believed that the brain could not develop beyond a certain age. The adult brain could not change, it was thought, apart from gradually shrinking from your late 20s onward. So, if your brain habitually criticized and demotivated you, then that was how you'd remain. That view is simply mistaken, as science has discovered. Your brain can develop, even during adulthood. There's hope for us all, provided we start respecting ourselves enough to practice self-care. How would you like to start rewiring your harshly self-critical brain using a simple 5-second habit? I'll share a transformational habit I've adopted, but first let's understand this a bit more. Once you understand why a practice works, it's easier to make it part of your life. Stress and negativity do remarkable things to your brain. When stress overwhelms you enough to keep your mood constantly low, your brain starts to gradually change. The core component of your brain, the gray matter, grows less dense in some helpful parts of your brain. But it grows denser in some self-critical parts. It's almost as if there's a tug-of-war between these two parts. An overdose of stress weakens the helpful parts, allowing the self-critical parts to dominate. That's the bad news. Fortunately, there's good news. Your brain can keep developing, and the unhelpful changes can be reversed. You have stem cells, so named because they can develop into various types of new brain cells. Also, new connections can develop between the cells in your brain. You can encourage such helpful developments by the actions and thoughts you embrace. In effect, you can assist your brain to keep developing in a helpful way. Before I describe the simple but powerful 5-second practice, there's a story I want to share. It will help illustrate how the practice works. My story. I had once accumulated a lot of weight, was on statin treatment for high cholesterol levels, and couldn't shed the excess weight despite regularly exercising. I attributed this to being over 40. I knew I was on a conveyor belt headed for a coronary bypass operation or heart attack and was keen to escape. Then a noticeably trim classmate from my medical school visited us and ate surprisingly small portions of some things but surprisingly large portions of others. They too were over 40 years old. What did they know that I didn't? Health and well-being are, to me, priceless treasures. People often destroy their well-being in desperate pursuit of material things. They can end up ill, sometimes forfeiting even the material things they craved. I didn't want to be yet another person sleepwalking toward a heart attack. I decided to investigate the secrets of staying trim despite middle age. I was strongly motivated, and in a helpful way. There were many challenges. I needed to grapple with the scientific literature, to untangle the conflicting information about how to eat well. My other big challenge was that I love delicious food, especially when eating in company. I was wary of solutions that took all the enjoyment out of food, or tended to isolate me from friends and family. Eventually I found an approach that transformed my health for good, but the details are for another time. The point here is that I had many setbacks and failures along the way. Despite the setbacks, I succeeded in permanently reducing my waist circumference by several inches and no longer need the statin treatment. There's one practice that helped me, more than anything else, to recover after setbacks. It's so stupidly simple that its power easily can be underestimated. But it works, as long as it's practiced consistently. I call it REBS. You'll discover why. REBS tames your harsh inner critic. When I was a young child, I was fascinated by orderly lines of ants. I spent ages observing them and perversely enjoyed drawing a stick or finger across the line. That would confuse the ants, and chaos would ensue. However, in a little while, the line would form once again. The ants recovered and resumed doing what was important in their lives. Let's say you decide that something is important in your life and you plan how to act accordingly. Perhaps, like me, you're keen on avoiding a heart attack and you decide to start eating better. Let's say you're armed with the relevant knowledge and know exactly what to do. You start out enthusiastically, until a setback happens. Perhaps someone presents you with a box of your favorite chocolates. Before you know it, the chocolates are somehow all out of the box and inside you. Within half an hour. Many people might consider that a triumph, but let's say that you consider it a setback. This is a crucial moment. What do you do? Start criticizing yourself? What if, instead, you treat the setback as a temporary blip? You focus on resuming your journey of eating well. When you sit down for your next nourishing meal, you accept your stumble but congratulate yourself for getting back on track. Even when you don't stumble and fall, you keep congratulating yourself for each small advance. Each nourishing meal, in this context, becomes a small triumph and an occasion for self-congratulation. Each half hour without grazing on snacks becomes another small triumph and another occasion for self-congratulation. Imagine rewarding yourself for every small advance, with a quick self-congratulatory phrase. Especially when you get back on track after a setback. You can, in this way, create a steady stream of self-congratulation that is based on real advances. You don't settle for empty words. Instead, you acknowledge and celebrate doing each small step, which carries you in your chosen direction. When your mind is busy with this reality-based self-congratulation, there's less room for harsh self-criticism, or brutal perfectionism, or comparing yourself to others. You start to transform your self-image and self-confidence. I call this practice REBS, short for reality-based self-congratulation. It's a rebellion against your harsh inner critic, who can otherwise be a demotivating tyrant. It helps the self-respecting part of you to prevail over the harshly self-critical part of you. You start to unleash the self-repairing power of your brain, even as you transform your self-image. Setbacks become an opportunity for you to recover and practice REBS. The more you do this, the harder it becomes for setbacks and stress to keep you down. Which self-congratulatory phrase could you use? The simplest is probably "I'm doing this, I'm okay." Or it can be the smallest meaningful step imaginable, such as sitting down for a healthy meal. Keep this practice firmly based in reality, anchored to your small helpful steps. Then you'll be able to do it meaningfully and with conviction. But do it at every opportunity, no matter how small your triumph. In summary, take a meaningful small step, then treat yourself to a quick dose of REBS, reality-based self-congratulation. Repeat, and keep going. Suffered a setback? Pick yourself up, resume your journey with the next small step, and treat yourself to a quick dose of REBS. Is this relevant to other situations? I used my experience with eating well as an example. But we could apply this to a wide variety of situations. If you feel worn out from taking care of others and have forgotten how to take care of yourself, then your small step can be as simple as listing your own needs. If you're a recovering workaholic, then your small step can be as simple as taking a short walk, or meditating for a few minutes, or freeing up an evening for playful relaxation with your partner. If you're a sales manager who's just lost a big deal, then your small step can be as simple as identifying the next good prospect. If you're a doctor or healthcare professional overwhelmed by the demands on your time, or complaints from patients, then your small step can be as simple as taking a short break to regain perspective and consider your options. If you're a business owner trying to cope with unhelpful staff or business partners, then your small step can be as simple as choosing the most important points you want to communicate to them. If you're scurrying around at work like a headless chicken, then your small step can be as simple as putting other tasks aside and focusing on just one important task in your long list. If you're confused about some decision, then your small step can be as simple as listing your options, in order to consider the pros and cons before choosing. If you applied for a better job but didn't get it, then your small step can be as simple as listing other opportunities. If you have a disabling illness, then your small step can be very small indeed. It might be as simple as getting out of bed, or walking a few paces without a stick, or contacting a friend. If you've had a bitter argument with your partner or child, then your small step can be as simple as reaching out with a gesture of reconciliation, and so on. You decide what actions are good, helpful and important in your life at this time. This practice can be applied in all areas of your life: personal, family and home life, community life, work life, etc. The payoff. We all make unwise choices and experience setbacks. Your harsh inner critic can sometimes make you feel worthless and unlovable. REBS, reality-based self-congratulation, allows you to rebel against the tyranny of that inner critic. It reminds you that you're always worthy of respect, love, and forgiveness. Even when you stumble, and especially when you stumble. Is this simple 5-second practice the answer to all life's problems and challenges? Of course not. Does your brain get rewired immediately? Of course not. It takes consistent practice. REBS needs to become a habit. Do you still have to decide what really matters to you, make plans, and solve problems? Of course you do. But REBS is a very useful companion on your journey. That's because it takes almost no time, yet works powerfully to help you grow out of overly harsh self-criticism. You start to respect and take care of yourself. Instead of brooding over setbacks, you begin treating each setback as a springboard for small helpful steps, accompanied by self-congratulation. You become less easily discouraged. In a subtle way, you become almost unstoppable in pursuit of whatever you value deeply. Your perseverance starts to resemble that of determined ants who reform a broken line, or the spider who resumes spinning a destroyed web. Success is no longer confined to the distant future. Instead, it starts to inhabit each meaningful small step that you take in your chosen direction. You start to rewire your brain. Your inner critic starts to transform into a helpful cheerleader. Instead of a constant stream of negative self-talk, you start to enjoy a steady flow of self-congratulation. Your confidence grows, and your life starts to become more meaningful, fulfilling and joyful. This practice of reality-based self-congratulation (REBS) costs virtually nothing. It requires only consistency, so that the helpful new neurons and connections in your brain become well established. A surprising benefit is that REBS pulls me into the present moment. Instead of brooding over past failures or fearing future uncertainties, I focus increasingly on a small step that carries me in my chosen direction. REBS has helped transform my life. I have a clearer head and feel more at peace. Others often remark that I'm now much more fun to be with, and I'm better off in almost every way. Despite all my flaws and the frequent, inevitable setbacks of life, I'm constantly reminded that I'm okay. Simple science-based practices with outsized benefits appeal to me because I'm so busy. REBS is one of my favorites among the life-enriching practices I've tried and adopted. I love how the practice can be started straight away, and become a treasured, self-empowering part of life. Conclusion. Whatever the setbacks or failures you've experienced, whatever unhelpful choices you've made, you're still okay, you're always worthy of respect and love. We all need a bit of understanding and mercy. REBS turns you into a more forgiving and encouraging friend to yourself. It lets the seeds of success be planted in the soil of defeat. It helps reduce the chaos of a challenging life to a helpful small step, accompanied by self-congratulation. You might want to start this 5-second practice and make it a habit. You could start right away and experience the difference.